I've always loved sports. So after graduating from medical school, it was no surprise when I decided to pursue a career in sports medicine. During my second year of residency, I began volunteering at a prestigious sports medicine clinic in San Antonio to gain further knowledge, experience, and to become a known entity to this group in hopes to be accepted into their sports medicine fellowship program. Although there were other sports medicine fellowship programs in Texas, San Antonio was our home. Mark had completed grad school and was now teaching at UTSA. We had bought a house, and we had a fur baby. We had a life there, and I didn't want to move for 1 year of training. So every weekend I had off, I was volunteering my free time to help cover the San Antonio Sports Medicine Group's Saturday morning injury clinics. During the fall, I covered a high school football team for this group by myself. Now, in hindsight, it was the worst team in the district that no one else wanted to cover. The team literally did not win one game all season, but I didn't care. I wanted to prove to them that I was a team player and would be a good fellow. Now I'm in my third year of residency, and I'm applying for sports medicine fellowships. And I only applied to 3 programs: Fort Worth, Houston, and San Antonio. I got an acceptance offer from Fort Worth, and one of the doctors from the sports medicine group in San Antonio, where I'd been volunteering for 1.5 years now, told me to turn it down because I had a great chance of getting into their fellowship program. So I turned down Fort Worth, and then the San Antonio group didn't choose me. So there I was without a fellowship for the year. The following year, when it came time to reapply, that same doctor from the San Antonio Sports Medicine Group told me, "You have a great chance of getting in." I knew better, so I ranked Houston first and got accepted there. Unfortunately, the Houston program imploded. So there I was again with no fellowship for the year. However, since I had already signed a contract with the Houston program, that program was contractually obligated to honor my salary for the year if I could find somewhere to train in a sports medicine fellowship. So as a last resort, I went back to this prestigious San Antonio Sports Medicine Group and asked them if I could train there as a second fellow if I paid my own way, which was gut-wrenching. And I know that transitions in life can be difficult. When I transitioned from a small country high school to college, difficult. From college to medical school, difficult. From medical school to residency, difficult. So when I say that my fellowship year was the most grueling year of my life, I don't say that lightly. And I've worked in a male-dominated field for most of my life, but I've always been treated as one of the guys. I've experienced gender bias along the way, but never to the degree I did during my fellowship. I was the only female physician in an all-male faculty. My co-fellow was a male, and it doesn't help that I'm yay tall. Yay tall. During football season, I was covering 3 to 4 games per weekend. Even though I was the team physician for Incarnate Word University, the athletic trainers at Trinity University did not like my co-fellow, and they didn't trust him either. So I was pulling double duty to help them out. During basketball season, the athletic trainers at UTSA liked me so much that when the men and women's basketball team both made it to the Southland Conference tournament in Houston, they asked if I could travel with them as their team physician. My program director seemed very mad about this, but he let me go because he wanted to maintain a good relationship with UTSA. So when I got back from the basketball tournament, my program director told me that my punishment for covering the UTSA team and missing a week of clinic was to miss another week of clinic and cover a PGA tour, which he didn't want to cover. So I didn't tell him that the entire week, all I did was ride around in a golf cart, work on my tan, get free drinks at the end of each day, and then go to the Collective Soul concert at the end of the tournament. His pettiness had worked out in my favor. It was a long year, and no matter what I did, I never lived up to my male counterpart in their eyes. He was their buddy, another guy to go drinking with. And I don't want to say this guy was dumb, because he clearly completed college, medical school, and a family medicine residency program. But he didn't get sports. He always missed pertinent elements in the patient history, and his exam skills were not great. He was missing ACL tears 8 months into the fellowship, and it's only a year long. Yet, they still treated him better than me. I remember one time I pointed out that they were treating me differently than my male counterpart, and as you can imagine, it did not go over well. My program director shut me down immediately, and things just got worse from there. One day, he brought me into the back office, started reaming my ass out for something stupid. I don't even remember what it was. And then he just kept pushing. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction or let him know that he could hurt me. But he just kept pushing. And eventually my eyes started to well up with tears. And he knew he had me as one single tear fell down my cheek. And then he looked at me, and once he was satisfied, he looked at me and said that with his help, my career as a physician might be salvageable. Mark was always there for me. After long clinical days, or after covering whatever sporting event I was covering, he would listen as I vented about what awful things had happened that day. And little did I know he was keeping mental and written tabs on my fellowship year. On graduation night, we went to this really fancy restaurant for dinner that was paid for by the program and the faculty. We had lots of food and drink, and it was tradition for the fellows to roast the faculty. It was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted way to end the year. Since Mark is an English major and a college professor, he helped me write the roast for each faculty member. They were really harsh, and I didn't know if I could go through with it, so I continued to down a little liquid courage throughout the night, and then something snapped, and I knew I needed to do it. I needed them to know that they had not broken me. So I looked at my co-fellow and told him, hey, you better go first, because there's probably not going to be much laughter afterwards. And he looked at me trying to decide whether or not I was joking, and then his eyes widened and he said, okay. So, per the ACGME, which is the governing body over all residency and fellowship programs, there's certain educational requirements that must be met for the learner to get a good education, not just getting a hands-on experience. So during my entire fellowship year, I had maybe 2 to 3 journal clubs, maybe the same number of lectures, and that was it. I was getting a lot of hands-on experience, but I was having to teach myself the educational portion to prepare for my boards or my final exam at the end of the year. So back to graduation night. When it was my turn, I went around to each faculty member one by one and roasted them. Most of them took it on the chin and had a good laugh about it. I left my program director for last. I wanted him to know that I knew that he was breaking the ACGME rules by not giving me the educational experience that I needed. I wanted him to know that I knew that he treated me badly for no reason. I wanted him to know that I knew that I could make things bad for him if I shared this information. And this is what I said directly to him, verbatim. I want to thank you for all your expert tutelage. Thank you for the kind things you said about me tonight, real funny stuff. Thank you for all the constructive comments you left on my evaluations during the year. Just out of curiosity, are we counting tonight as a lecture? If so, I think we're up to maybe 10 for the year. And don't worry, if the ACGME asks me, I'll go ahead and count that mandatory fellow faculty basketball game and our dinner in Utah. We'll get it up to 12 or 15. No, in all seriousness, you and I both know that without your help, my career as a physician wouldn't have been salvageable. The room grew quiet. All he could do was stare at me. One of the other faculty members said something, and the room filled with laughter. We were all supposed to go out to a bar after dinner to continue the celebration. My program director never showed up. I had won a small victory, and it felt good. I'd burn a bridge, which is never my style, but I knew I never wanted to cross that bridge again. After my fellowship year, I took a job in academic medicine, where I was told I was going to be heading up their sports medicine curriculum with plan to eventually build a sports medicine fellowship. So much to my surprise, even though I was promised this position before I left, they had hired a male to help me with this job. I stayed around for a little bit, but I knew I would never move up into San Antonio, so we moved to Austin. And at this point, I honestly didn't know if I wanted to continue with sports medicine. After all these bad experiences, the joy I felt for sports medicine was gone. I worked in a few different clinics around town, but none of them were the right fit. And then I lucked into an academic position here at the Family Medicine Residency Program in Austin. It was great to get back into teaching and to doing sports medicine again because it had been a few years. After my first year as a faculty member, I was asked if I'd be interested in running a sports medicine fellowship. And it sounded like a dream come true, but I didn't want to get my hopes up because I really didn't think it would happen. Throughout the year, I was asked several more times, but I didn't take them seriously until they asked me to start filling out the paperwork. 120 pages later, 120 pages later, with my name filled in every line that said program director, I was still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for them to tell me that they had found a more experienced male to fill that role. The other shoe never dropped. I created a primary care sports medicine fellowship program at the University of Texas, Austin, Dell Medical School, of which I'm the program director. My first fellow started this past July. And although my fellowship experience was awful, now I knew how I didn't want to treat a fellow. I worked hard to create a curriculum that gives him a lot of hands-on experience, but a good education as well. To this day, my former program director, who treated me so badly, avoids me. Now we're colleagues, professional equals. We go to the same annual sports medicine conference every year, and it's not a big conference. When he accidentally locks eyes with me, he quickly turns around and walks in the other direction. And every time this happens, I think, I just won another small victory. Thank you.